Welcome back to Scary Hours. I'm your host, P. I want to give a huge shout out to all my returning horror fans. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you know every time I drop a new horror review. Tonight, we're talking about Evil Dead Burn. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you already know I'm a huge fan of this franchise. I've covered Evil Dead Rise, I've talked about the original films, and every October, you'll usually find me revisiting the entire series. So the big question is, can Evil Dead Burn keep the momentum going, or has it started running out of blood? Well, let's dive in. A 2026 horror film directed by Sebastian Vanacek starring Sahilia Yakub, Hunter Duhan, and Lucien Buchanan. After the loss of her husband, a woman seeks solace with her in-laws. As one by one they transform into deadites, she discovers the vows she took in life survive even in death. Now, director Vanacek takes the reins with Evil Dead Burn after Lee Cronin's 2023 Evil Dead Rise, another one that pushes the series into even darker emotional territory while delivering relentless carnage. Now, if you've been following this channel, then you already know I'm a huge fan of this franchise. I've covered Evil Dead Rise. I love the series and all of the OG films. So out the gate, I can tell you this one is a great addition to the franchise and honestly gets me more excited about rewatching all of them through my October marathon. This movie absolutely understands what makes an Evil Dead film work. It's the feeling that absolutely nobody is safe. From the opening act, first thing that stands out is how committed this film is to the atmosphere. Rather than relying on constant jump scares, even though there are about 2 to 3 effective jump scares, Burn creates a feeling of mountain dread through the whole movie. The tension comes from being isolated with this miserable family through a time of grief when they seem to seriously despise you anyway, in the sense that every second pulls the characters closer to inevitable horror. There's an emotional foundation to the story, because grief plays a huge role. The movie uses loss as more than just a character motivation, it becomes part of the horror itself, and you'll see how that plays with the whole family acting crazy. Something I appreciate because the best Evil Dead movies have always had something underneath the blood and the chaos. But now let's talk about the Deadites. Every director puts their own spin on these creatures, and I think Vanacek found a nice balance between terrifying and absolutely unhinged, especially when it comes to the dad, who you could already tell was an asshole. But once the Kandarian curse reawakens and starts morphing the family into demons, he gets things kicked off with a completely out-of-pocket incident that displays the brutality and shock value this film was aiming for. Really wasn't necessary. But the Deadites just don't attack physically. They mock and manipulate to get inside your head, playing those mind games. That psychological element has always been one of my favorite parts of this franchise, and I thought this film captured it well. Even though we're used to Deadites being sinister with a slight comical edge, in the latest films they've been darker and seriously evil, but the grandmother tries to provide some comic relief in here. The movie still feels completely dreadful. Visually, this movie looks fantastic. The cinematography creates a dark, claustrophobic atmosphere that never really lets the audience breathe. We're pretty much in one location for 85% of the film, and it feels dilapidated and dangerous. Every quiet moment feels like something horrible could happen at any second. And of course, the practical effects are off the hook. If you're an Evil Dead fan, then you already know top-notch practical gore. And thankfully, Burn delivers just that. It's messy with extremely creative kills and exactly the kind of over-the-top horror that this franchise is known for. I do gotta keep it real. There is a spot of some sketchy CGI around the ending where it looks like a low-budget Vecna from Stranger Things, but the practicals are so tight we can forget that small blemish. Performance-wise, I thought the cast did a solid job. The emotional scenes never felt forced, and that made the horror land even harder. Jakob anchored the film with a performance that balances vulnerability and ferocity of a woman coming from a toxic relationship, now needing to stand alone against this broken down family. When you actually care about the people on the screen, every deadite encounter carries a little more weight to it. And that's something this movie does better than a lot of modern films. I think the direction of Vanacek was a great choice. Instead of trying to imitate Sam Raimi shot for shot, he brings his own style while still respecting everything that came before him. And that's exactly what I wanted from a new Evil Dead movie. Honor the past, but don't be afraid to put your own kind of stamp on it and give an interesting connection to the previous one. And he did that. So now, is the movie perfect? No, not at all. I really don't have many bad things to say other than we really could have cut out about 20 to 30 minutes. There were a few dips in the pace, and even though I never felt bored, I don't know how it's that close to 2 hours either. But honestly, that's a minor gripe. I can still watch the movie over and over. And when I watch an Evil Dead movie, I want tension and creative horror, great practical effects, and killer deadites. And they gave us all of that. This movie checks all those boxes. So where does it stand in the ranks for me? It's definitely one of the stronger recent entries of Evil Dead. I don't think anything will ever replace the OG in my book, but Burn proves that this franchise still has plenty of life in it. Plus, another installment, Evil Dead Wrath, is already announced, and that's exciting to see what they cook up next or if it connects to this one somehow. So, with all that said, I'm giving Evil Dead Burn 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. Not perfect, but it's brutal, it's atmospheric, and another worthy chapter in one of the horror's greatest franchises. So if you're a horror fan, this is definitely a good one to check out in the theater.
Please, please. Will's looking down on us from above.
From above. Down below.
Thanks for joining this Scary Hours breakdown and review of Evil Dead Burn. Now I want to hear from all of you. Where did this one rank in your Evil Dead list? Did it live up to the hype or your expectations, or are you still sticking with the classics? Drop something down in the comments section because I love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this review and breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell because we've got plenty more horror reviews and deep dives coming your way right here on Scary Hours. Until the next time, sleep with one eye open because the deadites never stay buried. Y'all stay safe out there.